Traveling after you turn 60, it should be one of the best things in life, right? But what if the most common piece of travel advice out there is actually sabotaging your trips? Well, today we're going to dig into something called the Circadian Desynchronization Peak and show you how to align your travel with your body's natural rhythm. The goal? To turn that all too common exhaustion into energized exploration. Okay, let's get into it. For decades, this has been the advice, right? Get up super early, get to the airport, beat the crowds, and you get to maximize your first day. It sounds so smart, doesn't it? It's what we've all been told is the savvy traveler's secret weapon, the best way to get a head start on your vacation. But here's the thing. What if that 3:30 a.m. alarm isn't actually your friend? What if instead of setting you up for success, it's actually setting you up for a kind of metabolic crisis that ends up casting this long shadow over the first couple of days of your trip? We're going to look at the science that suggests this single piece of advice might be the very thing standing between you and the amazing trip you've been dreaming of. Okay, so this is the key concept right here: circadian desynchronization. It's a fancy-sounding term, but really, it's the science behind that travel fog we've all felt, that drained, disconnected, exhausted feeling. It's what happens when you force your body to perform when it's biologically programmed for deep rest. And as we're about to see, our internal clock becomes a lot less flexible to these kinds of sudden changes as we age. All right, so here's what we're going to walk through together. We'll start by uncovering that hidden travel mistake. Then we'll look at your changing biological clock. We'll shift our focus from logistics to biology, and then I'll walk you through the Circadian Travel Protocol step by step. We'll talk about why this is wisdom, not weakness, and finally, how to anchor your own rhythm. Okay, let's start with that feeling. You know the one, that groggy, out-of-it sensation you get after an early flight. We've always just brushed it off as, being tired or stressed. But the hidden truth is that it's something much, much deeper. It's actually a pretty serious biological event, and it has real consequences for how you experience your trip. Just think for a second about what an airport asks of you. You've got to find your gate, keep track of your bags, listen for announcements, get through security. All of these tasks fall under what scientists call executive navigation. You're essentially asking your brain to act like a top-tier project manager at 4 a.m, a time when your biology has literally powered down all non-essential systems for rest and repair. So that anxiety you're feeling, it's not just stress, it's a metabolic crisis. You're not just tired, you're operating at a massive biological disadvantage. So the big question is, why does this feel so much harder now than it might have 20 or 30 years ago? Well, the answer is all about these subtle but really powerful shifts in our body's internal clock. And understanding this new rhythm is absolutely the key to mastering travel in this chapter of your life. Okay, so it really starts with something called the Cortisol-Awakening Response. See, when you were younger, an early alarm would trigger this big, powerful wave of the hormone cortisol. It was like a jolt of energy that got your brain going. But what happens as we get older is that this response starts to, it fragments. Instead of one strong wave, you get these smaller, weaker ripples. And this leads to something called cognitive task saturation, which basically means your brain feels completely overwhelmed before you've even had your coffee. And this chart here really lays it all out. So you see on one side, you've got that youthful response, a clean surge of energy, a brain that's ready for anything. And then you look at the other side, the mature response, that fragmented hormonal signal, a brain that's already hitting its limit, and this deep vulnerability to the sensory overload of a busy airport. The same alarm clock is now creating a totally different biological reality. Okay, so that vulnerability we just talked about, it leads directly into this next idea: processing speed lag. An airport is just a fire hose of sensory information, isn't it? You've got flashing screens, constant announcements, people talking everywhere. When your brain is already tired from that fragmented cortisol response, its ability to process this flood of data just slows down. And it's not that you can't handle it, it's just that your brain can't process it all at once at that kind of speed, especially when it's already running on empty. It all just turns into overwhelming noise. And believe it or not, the challenge doesn't stop once you've left the airport. Let's talk about the other end of the travel day. There's this thing called the Sundowner Effect, which is a known spike in anxiety and confusion when you arrive in a new, unfamiliar place, like a hotel room, late in the afternoon. After a long day, your brain's executive energy is gone. It has nothing left in the tank to map out a new space, especially in fading light. It's so important to understand you're not being difficult. Your brain is just out of gas and is struggling to build a mental map of this new world. So what this all comes down to is that your body has a very clear and very real schedule. Just take a look at this timeline here. You can see those two biological danger zones marked in red, from 4 to 7 in the morning when your energy response is the most fragile, and then again from 4 to 7 in the evening when you're most at risk for that sundowner effect. But look right there in the middle, that green zone from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., that is your peak alertness window. That's when your brain is naturally firing on all cylinders. All right, so knowing all this, it really demands that we make a pretty fundamental shift in how we even think about planning our travel. We have to move away from a mindset that's all about logistical efficiency, the fastest route, the cheapest flight, and really embrace a philosophy that's all about biological alignment. So the old way, it was all about saving time, but this new way, it's all about preserving your energy. The goal isn't to beat the crowds anymore. It's to protect your executive reserve, that finite tank of mental energy you need to make good decisions and, most importantly, to actually enjoy yourself. This shifts your entire mindset from being just a rushed passenger to becoming what we call a lead lifestyle architect, someone who is consciously designing their travel experience for their own well-being. And I love this quote because it just reframes the whole idea so perfectly. See, traveling in the middle of the day isn't lazy at all. It's the ultimate expression of control of wisdom. It's you saying that your internal clock is way more important than the airport's schedule. It's a high-status move because you're prioritizing your most valuable asset, your own vitality. Okay, so how do we actually put this new way of thinking into practice? Well, this brings us to the real heart of it all, the Circadian Travel Protocol. And let me be clear, this isn't just a random list of travel hacks. It's a complete framework designed from the ground up to protect your energy and make sure your biology is supported every single step of the journey. The protocol is built on 5 really clear, actionable steps. We've got the 10 to 2 rule, the arrival light standard, the buffer night, the sensory quiet window, and last but not least, the metabolic anchor. Okay, let's break these down. First up, the 10 to 2 rule. Think of this as your North Star. Always try to book travel that happens inside your peak alertness window. Second is the arrival light standard. Aim to get to your hotel with at least 3 hours of daylight still left. This gives your brain plenty of light and time to map out its new surroundings without stress. Third, the buffer night. Honestly, this can be an absolute game changer for those long-haul trips. You just split the journey in 2. Fourth, the sensory quiet window, which just means trying to avoid the chaos of commuter rush hour. And finally, the metabolic anchor. This one's subtle, but so powerful. Eat your meals at your normal home times. It sends a strong signal of stability to your entire body.
Now, I know it's easy to hear all this and have a little voice in your head start to whisper, am I getting fragile? Am I becoming difficult? And it's so important that we just reject that narrative completely. Choosing to follow this protocol is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of deep, advanced self-awareness. It's about finally knowing your own system better than anyone else. So let's actively reframe that internal conversation. Instead of thinking, I'm getting fragile, the new reality is I am highly calibrated. Your body is just giving you incredibly precise feedback. Instead of feeling like I'm being difficult, you can know I am a master of tempo. You are choosing the pace. And instead of thinking, I'm just slowing down, you realize, no, my trip is now in high definition because you're saving your energy for the parts that truly matter.
I think this metaphor really says it all. You spent more than 60 years collecting data on how your personal internal engine runs best. That feeling of always being in a rush belongs to a different phase of life. Now, you have the wisdom and you have the authority to drive it at the speed it was always designed for. This is what mastery looks like, not limitation. All right, so we've covered the why and the how. Now let's bring it all home with a simple, gentle challenge you can use for your very next trip to help you anchor your rhythm and really, truly lead your life. Okay, here it is, your gentle challenge. If you've got a trip on the books, go ahead and pull up the itinerary. Now just look at the travel times. Do any of them fall into those biological danger zones we talked about, either early in the morning or late in the afternoon? If they do, just ask yourself, is there any way I can shift them into my 10 to 2 window? And if you can't, could you maybe add a buffer night to soften the blow? Just doing this simple check is your very first step toward becoming the true architect of your travel. You know, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. The clock on the airport wall doesn't matter nearly as much as the clock inside your own brain. You have the absolute right to a schedule that honors your own rhythm. And aligning with that rhythm is the real key to unlocking travel that's filled with wonder and joy, instead of exhaustion and weariness. By making these small but really powerful shifts, you're ensuring that your best years of travel are lived to the absolute fullest. So audit the schedule, anchor the rhythm, and lead your life with the kind of clarity you've earned. Thanks so much for joining me.